Welcome everyone, Dr. Thor here. Get ready for Christ consciousness. Well, first of all, I want to make a little intro here. Remember to like and join our Patreon. Support us with a few dollars a month if that's all you can. If you can afford a little more, great. We need development funds so that I can spend my later years now, and time is running out, to get to the masses critical information that I have developed and know about. So this is the time to support. The world has went through massive changes. We're going to go through a lot of hard times here with this fake war and these pandemics. Now's the time to make things felt out there by supporting at a very low level of supporting people are doing something. And we want to thank all those that do that. And we built up a good core group of people, while tiny, who do help, and every penny goes to development and to assist. I need to do this 24/7 and not be worrying about sending packages out. So hopefully everyone understands that. The other thing is that, of course, YouTube is a minor set. We are our whole channel is suppressed by them. You can't find us, you can't find it, etc. But the bottom line is make sure you subscribe. Then you will find our stuff, because if you are a member, I should say, if you subscribe, you are told about our new products. It goes to you. That's part of their system. So, but if you don't, you're not going to find us randomly, or even if you have to look us up. So do that. The information is priceless, and I recommend everybody download anything. So I welcome people downloading everything that I post and using it as they choose in a non-monetary way. So feel free to share, feel free to do any of that stuff. Download it, listen to it, and get involved in the process here. So one of the things that has come to my attention here and asked, and of course, this is a very common question that is something that most people think about in terms of the bigger picture of life. And the bigger picture of life is the fact of, how do you build your etheric bodies? How do you go about the ascension process? Now, there are old, arcane, wasteful ways of doing this. And, going to monasteries, the Tibetans call it forming the rainbow body. I'm not sure that any of that is applicable to Westerners or can even understand it. And, I read an interesting book by a martial artist, a Chinese martial artist, Empty Force. What was that guy's name? Paul Dong or whatever. And he talked about how the Chinese don't think that Westerners should be taught martial arts, that they don't really have the brain, the consciousness for it. And to a large extent, I agree with that, because the Westerners approach things in a very different fashion. And while they're able to achieve great martial artists that way, I'm not sure that they get it. But I'm also not sure the Asians get it either, because they're kind of backwards. So we need this new synergy to happen, this new golden mean, where we take the best of everything and expose it to the people that get it. And this is not in any way based culturally. In a lot of ways, most interesting or advanced technologies or abilities are wasted on the cultures that are there, that others could take it or be part of the process of taking something advanced and using it and maybe improving upon it. And that includes kung fu and martial arts and all that other things. And of course, that's what the West did. The West invented very little. Even though they've been credited for it, like the Gutenberg press. Nonsense. The Chinese had that hundreds, if not thousands of years before that. But what the West did was perfect it. And that's something that the West has always done, taking ideas and making them better. Now, what is your etheric body? Now, this is going to be a little bit complicated. I'm going to try and simplify it as best as possible. This means building your core energy up. This means building strong, natural energies so that you survive at a high level of functioning and consciousness for as long as you can. How do you do this? Well, and I hate naming. I don't know if I hate it. It's a practical thing of life that the tools that I offer are there for a reason. I don't make stuff to sell it. I make stuff that I use and I then sell it. This is how the organization started, as a nonprofit research and development organization, where a group of basically magical occult scientists got together and said, well, let's research all this stuff. And let's find out what works. We hear a lot of gossip. And of course, that's how the guild started. What that led to was the finding of, the translation of many ancient documents, and leading further into, well, what do we all need? Well, the bottom line is that you can try and live in a meditative psychic environment all you want. It doesn't work. You're a channel, you're not a manifester. So you have to channel in energies. Well, how do you do that? Well, I think that all traditions have failed horribly because they seem to lack the use of tools. They lack the synergistic understanding that mankind is a tool maker. We make tools, tools make machines, they make devices that we then use to function at a higher level, because while mankind is a genius, an evil genius, but a genius species, it is very weak. I mean, humans are extremely weak. I mean, puppies are stronger than most humans. If you've ever had any dealings with animals, horses, etc., the raw energy, the raw muscles that horses and even smaller animals have is mind-boggling compared to the weakness of humans. Again, this shows our disconnection from this planet and that we are such a separate species. The human species, which has been here for millions of years, which was a little tougher, has actually grown weaker, not stronger in every possible way. We have survived only by our cunning, not our intelligence. Intelligence is different. Cunning is something you have to survive and to dominate others. Now, it does make you survive, but how long? It's a parasitical way of operating when you're cunning instead of wise. So hopefully everybody gets that as well. But what do you do to build your etheric body? Well, the first things you got to do is all boils down to your core energy, which is a lot of it is solar plexic energy. Now, how do you build this? Well, I've been working on this for many years and I'm coming out with a new special ring that actually empowers your core energy. Now, we have the primitive model that we offer right now, which is the old rings produced by Alex Chu, which we have updated by putting tachyons on them. Now, these are good rings in general, and everybody should have them. By wearing these when you sleep, you start building core energies. They're essential. Everybody should have these, and the addition of tachyons has doubled the power and made the energy very pure. These are based on meridians and sending energy right to the solar plexus. The problem is the design hasn't changed. I knew Alex 35 years ago, and the design of his rings are still primitive, and they're even painful to wear. I am coming up with a very advanced chi ring system, which will be custom made to everybody, so watch that in the future. But these are available now. I've worn them for years. You can expand them, keep them on your fingers, and sleep with them without too much trouble. But they're plastic junk. They don't move the energy well, but they do work, and they are relatively inexpensive. And by adding tachyons to them, you have a really fantastic tool. So these are available. Make sure you get those. Very easy. You sleep with these at night, you start building core energies. You can't get much easier than that, and that's the kind of tech I like, because I'm just as lazy as you are, and I don't follow through. It's like everybody who preaches stuff that they tend not to follow through as they should, and that's probably the one weakness I have. I'm too busy helping others and developing new products to use a lot that I've developed. But the bottom line is that that's where you start as well. What are the other things? Well, core energy is directly linked to sexuality, number one, and this is a problem with most people. Everybody's having sex wrong. Sex was to build the solar plexus for ascension, and you're supposed to exchange energy that you don't have. You're supposed to take in female energy, and you're supposed to give out male energy. Now, the bottom line is that this doesn't happen in normal sexual practices. You're psychotically driven for sex because you're psychotically driven to ascend, but you don't get it. Just like everything in this nature is really an ascension tool, which is pushing you that way in a very subtle way. All you have to do is look at a fruit tree. Now, I had many fruit trees, and I noticed the Ascension Process happening there. But what happens? A fruit tree puts off a bud. It is then empowered through insects or in general, and it then turns into a flower. That flower turns into the fruit. So when you eat a fruit, you're eating flowers. So the flower is condensed into this fruit. So what happens? The fruit builds, it needs water, it needs energy, it needs sun. But what happens? The fruit drops off the tree, otherwise known as ascension. So that's how all life works. And of course, what types of foods do you want to eat? Ascension food. And that's the other thing. So the worst thing you could possibly do, which everybody does, which drains your core energies, is any kind of masturbation. Yet everybody does it because we're sexually frustrated and driven insane without any kind of fulfillment, because nobody is sexually fulfilled on either side, and certainly males aren't. That's why there's so much prostitution and pedophilia, which is pandemic, all because of the fact that nobody's taking care of you. Because we have two radical species, and you could call this, to a certain extent, the ultimate evil, which is the separation of the sexes by sex drive. So this is something you have to be very careful of. And again, if I ever have the time, I'm going to write, which I've been trying to for the last 6 or 7 years, a whole book on human sexuality and the transfer of energy, how to have sex right. And it's not techniques. This is not about orgasm. It's about energy exchange, and it never was any different. So the more you orgasm, the more you push your energy without bringing any energy in, the more you deplete yourself, meaning core energy is gone. How do you change that? Well, the rings are the first step, and there are other practices you have to do in terms of energetics. But the new rings in particular are essential, and building this core chi energy, this body, solar plexus, sun-based energy is very, very important. Now, your solar plexus and how these energies are charged only partially are charged by your chakras that comes from another energy source. It's a cosmic energy empowerment. It is not chakra or third eye based alone. That is only part of it. So building this energy is very specific. And when you wear these rings on your pinkies when you sleep at night, the ones we have right now, you are charging that. Very essential, especially as you get older, because you're losing core energy in general. And if you're sexual and unfulfilled, you're just killing yourself. That's just the way it goes. And that's the way it is, and it's all set up that way. And this doesn't change, and even if you have the information of how to have proper sex, most likely you're not going to be able to do it properly. So you have to learn how to do this on your own. But one of the things is to minimize any kind of sexual contact, period. This should be something you do once or twice a week at the most. You should get it down to once a week to take care of that need. But, you know, the more you have sex, the more you want to have sex. And the less you have sex, the less interesting it becomes. So this is all part of that. So you want to limit your orgasms as much as possible. The other thing is particularly solo orgasms, which just drain you to the gutter. So, but in general, you have to do this. So what else do you want to do? Well, if you're going to build your etheric energy and you're going to ascend, which is a high level of vibration, well, you can't take in death. So you have to stop eating any animal products whatsoever. Now, I used to base this information to make life easier for people. Cheese is okay, eggs is okay. Well, you know, eggs are just chicken menstrual blood. You know, that's really what it is. It's menstruations in there. So it is one of the better animal products because it tends to be synergistic in nature. You take, if the chickens are taken care of properly, well, they get to live, they get fed, they run around, they give you eggs. Now, but a lot of times chickens are kept in a giant barn and they live night and day tortured. Now, how do you know? Well, so free-range eggs, if they are free-range, if that is real and not a fraud, certainly is better. Secondly, if you eat eggs, you should only eat organic eggs because eggs are very close to the whatever the chicken eats. So if the chicken's eating bad food, you're eating bad eggs. So very important to eat organic eggs because it's so close to the species of it. If you eat eggs, and I'm trying to get away from all that stuff, to be quite honest with you. I used to think it was okay to drink milk and to eat cheese. Well, I'm afraid it isn't, because these cows are hooked up to machines 24/7. They're tortured, and that goes right into their milk, which is there for their calves and not for your purpose. Now, diets are really based on culture and what was available, and we're eating like we ate literally hundreds of years ago. Milk products in general from cows are not normal. Nobody really eats those. It is made for cows, and it's not applicable for humans. And milk, the way we drink it in particular now, which is homogenized and pasteurized, is a terrible toxic food that closes your arteries. The worst thing you can ever do is drink milk. And I love cheese products and milk. But it's the worst thing. There are alternatives. You don't like them because you were brought up on garbage food and you think that's good. Just like you think salt and sugar is good because that's where you were brainwashed into. Now, everything can be changed. And once you get off these fats, toxins, sugars, salts, and sweets, when you go back and eat them, even because your mind tells you, oh, didn't that taste good when you were 12? You get sick from it. You can taste it. Most foods start to taste like you're licking salt because there's so much in it when you're off of it. So the Ascension foods are any foods that are given to you. Now, I just talked about that with fruit. Now, fruits, then, of course, you have to be careful. Fruit is not the best thing for you. Things like bananas are just so rich in sugars, they're really not too good for you. And you have to see how you adapt to them. But in limited quantities, these things. But things are given from trees, avocados, nuts of all types are fantastic for you. Particularly raw. Don't have nuts that are cooked in oil and salted. They have to be raw nuts. Cashews, any nuts that are raw are loaded with nutrients and oils that you need. And they're very high in calories, so you don't have to eat a lot of them, even though they tend to be a little expensive, but I'm not sure if that's the case. Avocados are a perfect food, as well as almonds, which, to go back to nuts a little bit, almonds are perfect food, and with avocados. You basically could live on avocados and almonds. But anything that's given to you that is something, you don't kill it. Now, when you get a carrot or something, you have to pull it out of the ground. You're eating the root. Well, you're basically killing that. That's not a perfect food item. But if a tree gives it to you, because if you don't eat the fruit from a tree, it falls to the ground and rots. So you consuming it is part of balance of what you're supposed to do. So any food that is freely given is something you can use. So nuts, fruits, etc. And of course, you want to watch the sugar intake of fruits, especially if you have problems. But most people don't have problems with fruits, but you don't want to drink things like fruit juice and other things, even though I love it. Nothing like a glass of orange juice, but you like it because it's full of sugar. So anything that's given that way, and of course you want to do things in proportion. So if it grows and can be, and the plant is not harmed and then reproduces that same thing after it, this is an Ascension food. Anything that is taken from an animal is death energies. You'll never ascend if you stay on that diet. All meats are this way. There's no nice way of killing an animal. Every animal is sacred and should not be ever touched. This is a sick, evil way. It's not productive, and proteins through animals tend to be inferior to proteins that are produced through plant products. And anything you need, you can get through a plant product. And if you're having problems, you can always take a supplement. One thing that's hard to get is B12, but it's hard to get, period. So you take a B12 supplement in a natural form. So you want to stay away from everything. You got to remember that a lot of capsules are made from animal products. So you want to get a vegetable capsule. So all of this is important. You need to eat less and spend more. Buy pure stuff and stay away from anything animal-based. And unfortunately, milk, cheese, and all these things, and I love milk and cheese, as I've said, but I haven't drank milk for a long time, and I keep my cheese down. I try and eat sheep or goat cheese and stay away from that. But getting milk out of cows, they are tortured to get it. Hooked up the machines 24 hours a day, constantly kept pregnant. This is evil. And what do you think happens? They produce this milk so their young can live off of it, and it's filled with toxic energy. Is that going to help you ascend? Well, hell no, because nobody wants that kind of energy in a new ascended plane. So if you bring death energies with you through an ascension plane, you're going right into the reincarnation cycle again because you are supporting that reality. Now, all advanced religions and philosophical systems are almost entirely a vegetarian, plain and simple. So you could, if you were a farm or in a society, work with animals. You take care of them, you feed them, you take their milk properly. But how do you do that? How do you get milk from it? They have to be pregnant all the time. So how are you going to do that? And I don't know how farmers do that in general that live off the earth, etc., but it's something we need to get away from. It's not good. Obviously, is stepping into meat products with many of them, particularly cold cuts and hot dogs and sausages, are just horribly toxic meats on top of it, filled with sugar and chemicals, and this is done all around the world. All sausages have sugar in it, no matter where you buy it from. And they are basically fat, and it doesn't matter, they're animal products. So anything that comes from an animal is bad. And that means byproducts from animals as well. You don't need it. There are, as an interstage of getting away from meat, there are plenty of meat substitutes, but you shouldn't be trying to substitute the taste of death because you like it, because you've been told to like it, by getting foods that taste like that. That's not the answer, and it shows a low consciousness. You should get to a point where, you don't like that flavor. You don't like the fat. You don't like the energy that comes from it. You don't want to mimic that with soy-based hamburgers. That is a start because you're brainwashed, but it's kind of an idiot solution. And I've done it for years. Using substitutes as a stepping stone that you never get out of, but you got to get away from that. You got to get away from those death tastes. If you like the taste of death, you're not going to ascend. Got it? And your etheric bodies are not going to build. Simple as that. Now, so that's number one. You've got your sexual things, and these are things that you don't have to necessarily invest in terms of buying products. You should have the rings. You need to have so many other products that we offer that isn't even funny because you have to build these energies up. You can't do it alone through a lack of sexuality or charging yourself through certain sexual practices and even eating food. You are too depleted. You need tools, and you can't do it anyway. Mankind is a tool maker. We make tools, and with those tools, we make machines so that we can go on to higher purposes. Why sit there and scrub clothes in the river when you can throw them in a washing machine? But does that mean you spend the rest of your time eating garbage and being decadent? No, you're supposed to use that free time to evolve as a human. And that's not work, it's fun. And that's another thing people have problems with. They think that spiritual paths are about not having things, about denying yourself. Well, that's nonsense. It's about getting pure, wonderful energies where you feel great all the time in balance with your reality and ascending. What's more fun than that? What, cocaine and dope and whores? What is that? That's all you're brainwashed to do. So you think that that's happiness, and this is the entire problem with what's going on today, where we have an entire culture of people who go through decadent, debased practices that produce nothing. So you control your sexuality, you have to control what you eat, and you got to go through the different phases. Stay away from sugar, and particularly fructose. It's a poison. So don't do that. You can eat certain sweet things if you like them. Dates, figs, dates, figs, and they're loaded with natural sugars. So there's certainly these things you can do, but you want to limit those as well. Sugar, and particularly fructose, which is put in so many products, is a horrible toxin. You got to stay away from that, and you got to stay away from anything animal-based. And as I said, you go into substitutes that kind of taste like the other things, and then you move away from them as well. There's a lot of selection of foods out there now. And it's amazing how good vegetables can take when they're prepared properly. Now, the problem is that Western society doesn't know how to prepare vegetables properly. You go to an Indian restaurant and the vegetables are fantastic. You could live off of them. They're so tasty. So it's all there, and it's just knowing what's out there and avoiding things. So get away from the meats, use the substitutes, and then get away from the substitutes and try and get into a more based environment in terms of eating foods that are given to you without destroying the plant or the planet. So I hope everybody understands that. One great milk substitute I find recently has been oat milk. It's made with oats, which is delicious. The closest thing I found to milk that's out there, and it's slightly sweet. It's great. You can put it on cereal and other things. A real great substitute. Soy milk is another one, but again, you want to make sure you get stuff that's unsweetened. You don't need other sugar added. Now, oats milk is semi-sweet naturally. You can buy soy milk that isn't sweetened. It's just flavored with vanilla, etc. So these are great substitutes and something that you want to get into and start doing it. So that's going to majorly improve your etheric body energies, which is so good. This will protect you from psychic and physical attacks. It will protect you from disease, etc., because your etheric body is strong. Now, you also need to make sure in terms of etheric body and core energy that you are uncrossed. And I talk about this all the time to ad nauseum, but everybody I check, of course, and especially after the traumas of these plagues and wars and the negativity, we're in a really negative time. Well, what does that mean? Those negative energies that we see every day and that we feel around the world and the problems that are going on in Ukraine affect everybody on this planet. And because we're such a connected society, it's like a bat to the head. So the point is we're taking this negative energy in and it's sticking to us. All the negative energy just went with these shots. And then, of course, we were injected with even more stuff. So all of this thing is called negative energies that build around you, and this stops high energy functioning and stops your success in life. So if you suffer, if you don't have success, if you're not sexually fulfilled, you don't have the relationship you want, guess what? You're building negative energies up, and society is more than happy to add to that. So that's one of the big problems that people have to look at and have to understand. So you got to keep yourself uncrossed. How do you open up your critical power centers for your etheric body? Well, that's your third eye and your chakras. Well, how do you do that? Well, there are many exercises you can do, but the bottom line, just like uncrossing, is the fact that you need to get one of our energy cells. That's why I invented these. That's why I use them all the time. So you got to keep your third eye open and your chakras flowing at the highest possible level. Now, I've been checking people's chakras recently to find out how closed they are. And most people's third eye and chakras are closed about 60%. This is very bad because you're not going to reach that high level of energy you need to ascend and to keep your etheric bodies functioning. And that includes how much you draw to you, etc. And the older you get, the more you need these energies. Also, with the Trinity Pack is what I offer online now, is uncrossing cell, your third eye, chakra cell, and of course your curse removal. Now, this stops attacks, basically. It's a protection cell that stops outside direct attacks on you. It protects you in general. So it's all around protection. It's not necessarily has to do with curses directly, but a cross condition can turn into a curse because it gets so strong that you're actually cursing yourself because you haven't removed it. So it's very important to have these three cells, and this is something you're going to use for the rest of your life. It's a small investment. Things that people can do as well is that taking baths to cleanse your aura is very important, in using our uncrossing bath salts, firewall protection, banishing, all the things to cleanse your aura. Now, you don't have to take baths. You can put it into a half a gallon of water, and you can pour it over your body after a shower. And you don't have to sit in a bathtub for hours. You sit in there about 10, 15 minutes, you're done, you can get out. It's as simple as that. So it's not like you have to do everything. Baths can be very therapeutic and cleansing. People who take a bath like this frequently feel a lot better. The other thing you can do, which is inexpensive, is take a salt bath with a cup of salt once a week for 10 to 15 minutes. Now, The type of salt you should use is Himalayan type salt, or salt that comes from the earth and not the sea. I used to recommend the sea, but the sea is a sewer now. Don't use sea salt any longer. Use Himalayan type. You see this pinkish type stuff. Generally, it's not too expensive, and it's large granules, but you generally use a cup of that in your bath water and sit in there for 10 or 15 minutes once or twice a week, and you'll see the difference. This, again, will get rid of a lot of negativity. You also should be lighting candles with uncrossing oil on it weekly, and banishing and firewall protection. Now, you do this throughout the week. Each day you do one with uncrossing, one with banishing, and one with firewall protection on a simple little tea light. And these oils last literally for years. I've got oils I've been using almost daily, and they've lasted me over 2 years because of our applicator system. It's not about quantity, it's about energy. So you simply light these tea lights, which are about 6 cents each. You put them in a holder, you put your picture underneath, and this will send energy throughout your environment. Very critical to do that. It's also a good idea to put open top jars of salt, again, the Himalaya salt, in different rooms, your bedroom, your office, your kitchen, so that negative energies can kind of be sucked in with that salt. Not only, it's a very simple and low-cost way of doing things. So these kind of cleansing things are very important. And this is all part of the process of handling this kind of etheric information. But you have to have these tools to draw the energy from. You're a channel, but you have to channel in these energies. Well, you can't find these energies yourself. That's why we put them into manifesting energy cells, MechTech. That's what they're there for. And as I said, these are lifetime tools. And for what the benefits you get from it, these things are way too underpriced. I mean, to get a high-quality gold plated with your cosmic code on it, for the prices we're selling at them is unbelievably cheap. They should be double and triple the price they are, and they may be in the near future. So I would recommend people jump on this as they can. Now, everybody also needs to understand the use of the God particle, which is called radionic or consciousness technology. So you need to have a radionic amulet, and you don't really need a big machine. I've made this new amulet that's super powerful, works fantastic. All you need is a good radionic amulet with your cosmic code on it. It is a good idea to get a basic radionic system. So radionic systems, again, you're sending energy, you're protecting yourself, you're creating the fields around you that you need to live at a high level and to vibrate at a high level. And, you don't have to use these things for materialistic purposes. People get confused with that. You can use them for ascension. Send ascension energies. Work on your chakras with them. Work on your third eye. So there's a lot of ways to use radionics on a higher spiritual level instead of bring me money, influence this person, etc. That's a very primitive way, and of course you can do both. But having that system is critical, and a radionic system is a thought form based system that's very effective to have. The other thing that's important to have is our Triforce system, which is more of a spiritual and spirit or magically based radionic system. In that box is all sorts of more physical items that are connected to all sorts of realms of empowerment, from angels to Egyptian energies to runic energies. It's all in there, and you're tapping into all these when you have a Triforce system. Very critical. These are your life tools. These are things you should be using daily and incorporating in your lives. Very important. That's why we make them. They're not made to make money. They're there to help you on your process through this very difficult and dangerous reality that we live in. Now, as you go up in your ascension processes, you will start building, as you eliminate cross conditions and negativity, and your chakras are flowing, and you're drawing in proper energies, and you're empowering yourself spiritually through radionics, you are building this huge etheric body. This starts to trigger ascension energies. Now, once you get rid of death energies, you start connecting to ascension energies. Now, there are complicated processes to do old-style ascension, which I'm not a big fan of. But once you eliminate death energies within your body, and you've built up a lot of these over the years because you're eating death energies, it's going to take a while to get that out of your system, you will start changing. You're going to feel lighter. You're going to see things better. This starts the ascension process alone. Now, what I like to do with people is I get you up to a higher state of understanding, and you can reach the state of gnosis, Christ consciousness. Now, this is difficult. This is where it becomes a problem. You can't ascend if you're going to think the way you think now. If you're going to believe in comic book gods, if you're going to hear the news and think they're telling you truth. Well, they've never told you truth in the past. Why should you get truth today? If you're going to buy into all the nonsense that society tells you, you're not going to ascend. You're going to reincarnate, even though you'll probably reincarnate if you do everything properly at a higher level. So there's different levels. Now, escaping and ascending out of this reality is what everybody wants, breaking the reincarnation cycle. This is extremely, extremely difficult. So, you have to become a freak to this society. You have to become basically what becomes an enemy to this society to do that. And it means you're further targeted for destruction. So it's difficult. You also have to think completely different. Now, what you're thinking is nobody else's business. But you have to think differently. If you bought in the news what's going on, if you're another person who sees an event like what happened at the recent Academy Awards and you stand up and clap for an assault, well, you're pretty fucked up. So the point is you've got to understand that. You shouldn't fall in with the crowd. The minute the crowd is going in one direction, you have to turn around and go in the opposite direction. That's the first step to Christ consciousness, gnosis, is the fact that, and we're talking about the solar Christ here, we're not talking about Jesus. So the whole idea is that you have to do opposite of what the crowd does. That is always the best move. So when you see something and someone's clapping, you don't clap, and they stand up, you don't clap and you sit down. You're not part of them. Now, this is going to make you a piranha. People are going to find this very objectionable. Well, that's their problem. As far as I'm concerned, most people are feces, stink like it, smell like it, and I don't want to have anything to do with you. The fact that you think that I'm weird or strange or don't fit in is a compliment. Now, can you handle that? Well, that's what it takes to ascend. Ascension isn't that, I just want to be peace and loving and sacrifice myself for the world. That is not going to get you into ascension. Ascension is a warrior path that you achieve by doing basically, which is anti-social acts in a non-criminal manner. So the bottom line is you have to go against society's beliefs and patterns, which is going to make you a freak. Not that you go around killing people, molesting, or doing. That's not going against society. That's indulging in evil and is not about going against society. Going against society is you don't look at anything they've built or any of their authority and accept it as being good. Plain and simple, most likely it's bad. And it's getting worse because people, if it was any good to begin with, people have misused it and distorted it. You want to toss it away. You want to do exactly opposite of what the crowd does. Plain and simple. Now, that sounds good, doesn't it? Sounds wonderful. Oh, I can do that. You can't do that. Nobody does it. Nobody stands up and fights for anything. Nobody stands up in a classroom and or argues with the professor or anything else. I've done this, and I've done it alone. You're going to be with the gang. You're going to terrorize us, the people. You're going to kneel to the teacher, and that's what you're going to do until you become the warrior to stand up to them. Plain and simple. So that's what has to be done, and this takes a very courageous and very advanced thinking process. Because you have to also understand, to do that, to stand up to the teachers and other ones, and to authority, you have to understand how they're wrong. And you have to know that by being an educated, fact-filled gnosis person. You need to know the truth. Well, you're not going to know the truth. People gather around authority because this is some perverse protection. They know what's going on. They're going to take care of us. Well, the graveyards are full of people that the people in authority have taken care of, whether they're graveyards full of wasted military personnel or they're horrible medicine and the deaths, the number one cause of death in the United States, and has been for years, is physician error. So as we go on with all these, this is what happens. You've got to know that this is wrong, and you're going to have to learn how to play the game. What is that all about? No. And if you don't play the game, you're going to be part of a statistic. Yeah. So if you want to ascend, you're not going to ascend by getting in with the crowd, by believing in a religion, by becoming a Hare Krishna, chanting on the streets, banging a drum. It ain't going to work. And it never has. These are the traps. These are the things that you think is a spiritual path when they're really just a path to hell. These are all perverted, sick religions based on the lowest instincts of man. It's just all religions are. No matter if you look at all of them, they're horrific in what they believe. And they're laughable in comic book. Virgin births? Give me a raising from the dead? Well, let's see somebody do that, period. This is comic book stupidity that feeds the lowest level of people and not getting into the real essence of what spiritual belief is. And it's very easy to get caught into that because the people that are preaching these religions that want you to go to their churches are all corrupt scumbuckets of the lowest level. I've never met worse people than these so-called religious Christians who are as corrupt and as rotten as you can get. Plain and simple. So there's certainly nothing there, and certainly that belief system hasn't transformed them from the low-level scum cowards that all religious people are. I mean, it doesn't matter which religion it is. It's the lowest thought possible. Now, you get caught in that, and you're going to be in trouble. You're not going to get anywhere. So that's all part of it. If you seek solace from corruption, you'll be made the corrupt too, and you will be made the fool. And that's what most people are. So this is all part of the process, but the whole idea is you don't want to be in a club that's full of a bunch of losers that you just ascended away from because they're going to make it easy for you, right? We want to bring in all the scum buckets from this reality into the next reality, right? We want to trash the neighborhood with the scum from this reality because we want to make it easy so you can have it easy. Does that make any sense whatsoever? As Groucho Marx said as the comic, is that I would never join a club that would take me as a member. So the whole idea is that, and I think that's a wise statement for people to understand. So the ascension process requires, and it's not really a difficult or even disciplined life. The fact that you have to eat different, is that punishment? Means you can't go to McDonald's? Is that a punishment? Because everybody else does it? No, because you're conditioned. That's what you're supposed to do. Because you can't eat tacos and meat and pizza and all the other crap that's got cheese on it? Is that a punishment? Or is it an enlightenment that you should smile every day? Gee, I learned this. I'm not with the stupid stooges who are destroying this earth and torturing everything on it. I'm special, not because I believe in a book or go to a stupid building with a bunch of morons, but because I live it every day. And you should be happy when you're eating tofu or fruits or figs or dates. You should say, gee, I'm eating the good stuff because I'm smart. And I figured it out while those people are eating poisons. So it is not a disciplined, hard life. This is the other thing that people look at. You have been educated to know what's right. You should be joyous in that. You should be joyous in the fact that you see these bogus fools in churches who are hypocritical scumbuckets. And hey, I didn't get trapped, baby. You're the sucker. You should have a smile on your face 24/7. So it's not a difficult path. It's a different path that is much more enjoyable. And by the way, you'll actually taste things when you start eating better foods. You won't just taste salt and fat and sugar. You'll start real tastes. Ooh. And your body will feel lighter and it'll flow better and you won't have that death energy. And you can say that I didn't participate in the destruction of this planet and the torturing of animals. I didn't do that. And this, of course, if everybody did that, we wouldn't have wars or anything else. As some person said, as long as we have slaughterhouses, we'll have battlegrounds. And I agree with that. It's just another way. People that are involved in death produce death. And it's an unending cycle. And we make industrialized torture And of course, we do it to our own people as well. They're called factories. And of course, we've murdered and tortured people throughout society, and we continue to do that. And it's always been that way with masses of people being exterminated, nothing new. And what happens after people do that is we generally give them lots of money and let them build stuff and buy their products. Because after all, they learned what they did by murdering and torturing people. That's okay with me. This is the kind of thinking that when you eat meat, you think is okay. You think it's okay to buy products from powers that murdered tens of millions of people and continue their evil ways. So all of this is something that you have to come to grips with, and you can't go halfway. You can't say, well, I'm going to eat a little bit of meat or that. There's no halfway to this. Get off that crap and start moving to things that really give. Instead of that momentary taste of fat and sugar and salt, get away from that. You shouldn't even like that. You should eat something like that and it revolts you. The flavor, the energy of it should be something that it is not a choice. Well, I want to eat that. Yeah, you want to eat that because you've been brainwashed, because they've told you that, because you've been told to go to McDonald's and Burger King. Yeah, by the same society that is raping the planet, murdering each other, and has doomed us and this entire society through their evil technologies. And it goes on and on and on, but you don't have to be part of that. So that's part of the process. So you have to use the tools. You are a channel. You don't manifest anything. That's what these cells are all about. The MechTech technology has the energy there. You need to channel it into your life because you don't have it. Now, people try and do this in lots of ways, through sex, drug, and rock and roll, through Jesus, Muhammad, Yahweh, and they all think that this is. Now, none of that has ever worked, and we've literally had thousands of years now. Judaism and Buddhism is 4,000 years old. Christianity is 2,000. Islam is 1,500. Has any of this worked? Well, we got to give it another 3,000 or 4,000 years, Thor. It takes time to get these things. Does it? Now, when something don't work after a period of time, you break it and you throw it in the trash and you move on. You don't keep basically striking a dead horse, right? Whipping a dead horse to think that you're going to get it up and it's going to go. It's dead. It's never going to go. And people are continuing whipping dead horses, and then they wonder why they don't get any results. These things don't work. This is nonsense built within you from the God particle, the God force, which is in you, which are occultons, which you're made of, is everything you need to know. And there's basically not a single society out there that doesn't understand what right and wrong is. They just, right and wrong is for their society, and they victimize everybody else. But no one justifies murder of their own people, rape of their own people, stealing from their own people. No, but it's okay to do it to everybody else. That's how people work. So, but intrinsically, they know what right or wrong is, and none of these societies, or very few of them, has ever went out and said, I murdered all them people. Isn't it wonderful? I got rid of the scum. Nobody has ever done that. They've all hid it because they know it's wrong. So everybody knows what's right or wrong, and you don't need guidance. Your guidance is in you. If you're too stupid to know that you can't rob, rape, and murder other people, I didn't know that, Thor. I had to read it in a book. I was cutting the eyes out of a guy next door. I just thought it was normal. So the whole idea is this kind of nonsense that we run into is totally bogus. The bottom line is we all know what's right or wrong. Everybody does, whether you're a serial killer, a tyrant murderer, everybody knows it, and it's as simple as that. You do it as well. If you don't get that. Now, people who go to church are losers and people that want excuses for doing, I was drunk and rotten, raped and beat this person, but I'm sorry. And of course, that's what built Christianity. Christianity was the only religion that allowed people to state that they took on Jesus and their sins were erased, and that's how Christianity was built. Other religions and most of your alternative religions didn't tolerate it. You did bad stuff, you paid for it. Not Christianity, accept Christ and everything's forgiven. Oh, what a nice deal. So, this is how. So, you don't need these foreign thought forms which will pollute you, because what they're going to do is add in their human reality that is all messed up. So, they're going to add into this of, well, how do we apply this goofball writing that you get in these religious documents that you have to figure out? like some sort of goofball puzzle. Well, that means some guy tells you what to believe in. So you're believing in someone else's beliefs. And that's what religion is all about. Spirituality is believing your own path, but your own path that's based on universal intergalactic law. And everybody believes the same thing in the universe, and that is not victimizing others, or to use the cliche-ish Christian thing, do unto others as you want done to you. So the bottom line is that you treat everybody the way you want to be treated. So that means you don't rob, rape, and kill them because you don't want to be robbed, raped, and killed. So this is intergalactic consciousness that everyone understands. And this isn't culturally earth-based or anything else. It's galactic-based. Everybody understands. Now, people that don't get that and need to go to churches to have somebody tell them how to act are the lowest denominator people. And as I said, I've never met a Christian who wasn't a backstabbing liar. They are really the scummiest people I've ever met. But it's not just Christians. Every religious person I've found is like that. They're liars and deceit people, and they never fight for anything or anybody else that's there. They're easily bent over and told what to do under the guidance of their fake religion that hasn't helped anybody, and they are filled with hate. They're all filled with hate. Look at all the religions. It's all about hating others. That's really what it's about. We have rules, and I hate you because you don't follow them. And these aren't, intergalactic rules. These are rules that go into stupidity. And most biblical rules went into how to take care of animals, how many wives to have. And conveniently, all this stuff is, we'll get back to the 10 Commandments or what's considered intergalactic law. Everybody agrees with that. And there's certainly anything profound about that. It's natural law. So you've got to stop. This is toxins. If you take this stuff into your life, if you hang around people that have these belief systems, if you're not in a supportive group, if you're not doing things to support your cause, you are now not reaching a level of ascension as well. You have to participate. You have to put your money where your mouth is. You have to support and communicate with people that have similar belief systems to you. If you don't do that, you ain't gonna make it. You have to. It's bad enough that most people with these belief systems are very isolated. But a lot of this is an isolation that you have caused yourself. There's plenty places to interact with if you want to. Our lines of communication are always open. I answer everybody, usually very quickly. But it's not about being answered, about interview. It's about supporting and feeding the energy that will assist you to ascend and to help the earth. Now, if you're not doing that, and we mean support, if you're not supporting, it's not just buying products, it's supporting in any way that you can. And there's lots of things people can do to support this organization. A whole bunch of little things that don't cost a penny. Yet people don't do this. If you stay isolated, you think, well, it's kind of selfish and I'm going to do this myself using information from this organization without supporting it. And that's past, as I said, just buying things, which of course is always important and nice. But it has to go past that if you expect to reach high levels. I frequently get emails from people who are registering their books. They're buying them through Amazon. They're not getting the proper training. And of course, Amazon gets almost 60% of the book price. They're not helping the organization, yet they want all that information. I just don't quite understand that. You are supporting Amazon, not me. You buy through the organization directly from our website. This is how we can make the highest amount of profit so that we can get that money and help others and get back into our development programs. So these are all the things that people just don't seem to get. And I get this all the time. I just don't quite understand that. Not only that, if you're not buying the course, you're not getting the all-important scalar energy discs that are very important to change it. I don't think people get that either, and we're going to talk about that in other lectures. But this is all part of the process. Are you with the energy and the, quote, team of fellow ascenders? Are you connected with that energy? Are you connected to this organization that stands for it? And you have to do something special to be connected. It's not just buying. It's not just using our technologies. It's participating in the growth of this energy by supporting it in any way you can. As I said, there's lots of ways beyond money. Simple little things that people can do. And nobody does it because they're afraid of the black magic practitioners out there who love to attack this organization and have taken over radionics and everything else. Well, you got to get some balls, baby. You got to become the warrior. You got to go out there and fight for this organization, to stand up to these do-nothing Satanist scums. You don't do that, you're not going to ascend. You don't have the fight in you to stand up for your principles, you're not going to make it. You're not going to ascend. Ascension isn't for weak, snivelly little cowards that bend over to every little person out there because they have a couple of buddies that back them up and you may be alone. Well, you better learn to fight alone because you're going to fight alone a lot. That's how it is. Evil is everywhere. It's legion. Good is not, and you're going to have to stand up to that. In every possible place you can. You have to prove to the ascension energy that you deserve to break the reincarnation. If you're a snivelly little person who puts up with the crap from society and puts up to attacks to this organization, you're going to go back in the reincarnation cycle, and there's going to be no hell for you. You got to stand up to things. This is a bigger picture here. This isn't about worrying about animals and eating right and take care of your ego so you can get out of this hellhole you're in. It goes way past that. And nobody in ascension reality and the level above human where you've ascended to wants to be with snivelly little cowards that don't fight for anything. They stay here where you should be. So this is all part of the bigger process. And this is part of what you have to, as an individual, stand up for. You have to stand up for your path. You have to stand up for ascension. You have to stand up to this nonsense. I've talked to many people. I remember talking to one, and I found out that he is a Satanist and he's a fraud in the alternative energy business. And many years ago, and I said, well, all of this, I'm a vegetarian. I don't know how it came up in the conversation to this scumbucket louse. But he says, you guys don't live longer. Well, the bottom line is that vegetarians do live longer. Much longer. And they have much less disease. That's number one. But I told him, first of all, I didn't do it for health. I did it so I don't murder animals. Well, of course, he didn't find that very impressive. But, of course, after all, he was a Satanist, liar, deceitful person, misleading society with fake alternative energy. This is so typical of all the people out there that tell you nonsense when we have free energy sitting in front of us that could be used tomorrow called hydrogen, but a 0 point. Yeah, 0 for you because they're working for the oil companies and they're the lowest scum out there. So the whole idea, which, by the way, has this particular person and organization now is working with E.A. Kenneding, the Satanist. Well, I could have told you that was coming. So the whole idea is that this is what you have to do, and you're going to have to stand up to this, and you're going to have to stand up to negative energy. You're going to have to do what you can out there. Being passive, taking care of your butt, is not enough. And it doesn't build strong auras and everything else. You need tools. You need to work with these daily. You need to build your core energy up. But you also have to be standing up for what you believe and for what is right. That doesn't mean you have to take on society. It doesn't mean that you necessarily have to confront everybody in a particularly dangerous or outnumbered situation. But you have to be there. You have to be there to assist. You have to do little things. I'm always amazed at how few people, even my supporters, don't like the videos that are put up on YouTube. That's part of the process. Yet they don't do it. It's something they forget. So I have to wonder how many people are even subscribed to the channel. Now, that's the game you play. Now, that doesn't cost you anything. What it takes is a consciousness to understand, well, I want to support what this guy is doing and saying, so I'm going to like every one of his videos. I'm going to play them over and over again. And when I go to work, I put on a playlist and I let it run all the time. So it goes there just to make sure that there are double the hours. People don't do this. What does that cost you? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. But people don't. Are you really want to ascend when you're not supporting these people that provide ascension technologies and assistance? Is that the level? So the point is that we have to be careful here if we want to blame society, what's going on. Are you participating? And as I said, it goes way above just buying products. What are you doing to help in any way whatsoever. How are you assisting in the many different ways that can be assisted, which is basically a lot of social media things that don't cost you anything. So we have been very neglectful in that area and pretty much only do YouTube-y stuff, which we're going to be moving away from as things switch over more and more to Patreon and as we get into other social medias. But this is a great way to communicate information, and I think it's a lot of people tend to get things out of this, or a certain measure of people. We're not looking for the masses. They're looking for, people that are lighting their own farts on YouTube or some other nonsense. So the whole idea is that this is the reality that everyone has to look at. So it's a way of thinking. It's a way of building your spiritual empowerment. And you have to do this through your fragile human condition by building solar plexus energy, core energies, to the highest level. This creates etheric energy. And quite frankly, you feel wonderful and you don't get sick. And you live long. It's all based on building this core energy up. Which is mostly just a process. But again, you need tools. You want to meditate for 4 hours and do other things? Well, why not just buy a tool that you use that helps you do it? That's how I look at things. I don't want to spend my entire life doing spiritual practices like the Tibetans and everybody else does. I want to do things as short and as fast as possible so I can get on with fun things in life or other things in general. So that's how it all works. Ascension is a difficult path and something you have to stay on. We are coming out with Ascension. We do have some of those right now, of course. We have Ascension cells as well. This starts to get your etheric body vibrating. The basic IGOS, Thor's amulet, this connects you to that kind of power. It's an ascension power. We also are going to have other ascension tools we're coming out with, which will help people build this kind of solar energy vibrations. You still have to have that core energy that connects with the actual ascension energies. And when these unite, you start your ascension process. But it's a twofold sword there, and you have to understand that. So you have the physical core abilities that you build through proper living and thinking, and then you unite that with the cosmic ascension energies, which is a very specific type of energy that, again, you're a channel. You have to bring this in. When you unite those two, you ascend. Now, you may not turn into a light body and ascend, and people have done this, but it's very rare. But when you die, you will normally ascend because you are vibrating at a high level. So when your physical body gives out, you'll turn into a light body. Now, if you are not vibrating, if you have not connected these two things together, when you die, you die. Now, do you break the reincarnation cycle? No. Most likely, though, you will come back better and come back to a higher level. But you will not break the reincarnation cycle, and you will not ascend out of this reality. But you will come back as a better person, living whatever you have to learn again. And that may not be an easy life, because easy lives don't build anything but decadence. On the other hand, suffering does not teach you. Suffering embitters you. And this is where people don't understand. So easy life breeds decadence. I don't know anybody who is rich and famous that isn't a decadent idiot. Total bogus, low-level scumbuggets. So you need a little bit of hardship in your life, but you don't need suffering. And I hope that people understand that concept as well. So that's the ultimate uniting of the two forces that creates ascension, which naturally happens when you die, because you're functioning at a high level. You're thinking at a high level. Your body energy, even though you may be physically breaking down with the atropic reality we live in. Remember, we live in a reality that is constantly breaking down everything. Everything in this reality is constantly breaking. The minute you're born, you're dying. Everything is breaking down. That's the way it works. So it doesn't matter if a tree lives 1,000 years, it still dies. So it's atropic in nature. And of course, depending on what species you are, if you're a fly, you live for what, a few hours a day? So the whole idea is this is how this atropic breaking down environment is. And we have to surge ahead of all this stuff. We have to go to much higher levels of reality. Through vibrating at different levels. So when you're eating the right things, you're solar plexus energy is up high, and you unite this with the higher solar consciousness ascension energies, which is a whole different energy, by the way. Once you stabilize yourself, you have to take in ascension energies. And as I said, you have to get an ascension energy cell to do that, because this is completely and totally foreign to you. You have no idea what these energies are, and there's no way to describe them, and you have to be given a contact to them. You have to be, you are the channel, but you have to be connected to that energy so you can channel it into you. That's what you have to do. So this is an entire process. I hope to lay this out again, but there is always restrictions, and time is running short. So people, as I always say, make sure you record these things, download, and have them for the future. Who knows what the next day holds? So get the information while you can, and I also recommend people to obtain the technologies they need as soon as possible. We never know how long we're going to be able to offer these things. There are enormous pressures for an organization like this to be stopped, and that's just a fact. So people have to do it. So if you want something, you better order it now. Now, we expect to be here for a while, and we expect to be doing our work, but every day is a question and has been for many years. Fortunately, we have always overcome. But don't think that the next day will be another overcoming. It could be a non-functioning day, a disappearing day. So we just don't know. So don't think anything's going to be here forever. And invest in your life. Invest in what you need. These are lifetime tools, and they can even be passed on to relatives. And what a great gift to give to a relative, a son, a grandson, if they could get one of your MechTech cells. These are fantastic tools, and they then have a direct connection to you and wherever you're going if you choose to communicate that way. So all of these are amazing tools. They are far surpass anything that people can even possibly comprehend. But they do not make you they are not genie lamps. They don't make you into a Superman, at least not on that level. If that was the case, you'd become a god, and there would be no reason to ascend. This is part of the greater struggle, and there are people and tools that help you with that. You have to access them. And you have to continually get what you need to bring up your power. And new things come out. There's new empowerments. Well, that's all part of the process. You don't keep the same things all the time. And also, we're trying not to make this into something that is unaffordable or not. But, these are not things that are sold by the thousands. These are small quantity products. So the amount of money we have to make is dependent upon the volume of sales as well. And that's everything that we actually put out, as you said, is priced probably 10% of what it should be. To get an amulet or an energy cell to do what these do, these things are basically priceless. They should be a few $1,000s, not a few hundred. So these are bargains. They're out there. You need the tools. That is not a business model. That is reality. You can't do this alone. You can't do this through meditation. You can't do this by sitting on the top of a mountain or in a cave. This is all nonsense and gossip. Most priests of Tibet and any other system for that matter are horrible cowards and failures. They really never achieve anything. It's a big egotistical trip, and they go out and beg in the morning, and then they sit in the temple and chant all day. Well, what is that? What are you doing to help the world? This is so ego-based it isn't even funny, and they haven't done anything. These societies have been around for thousands of years, and what has any of them done? Certainly, Tibet has done absolutely nothing. It's just a repressive religious regime is what it really is all about. So all of that you have to understand, and it's not difficult to do. You got to understand this is fun, it's interesting, and highly rewards. You get really fantastic rewards. It's not about doing without. It's about doing with higher and the better. It's like going from copper to gold. And that's what you have to look at. Oh, I like copper. Well, if you like copper over gold, there's something wrong with you. So you ought to look at that process. You should look at the process that you can get rid of death energies and poisons and all the preservatives and all the other things that come with eating toxic products. You should enjoy that you have discovered the gold. You are now on the path, man. You are going to excel while everybody else is in the sewer. That's how you have to look at things. And as I said, you need to stay connected with the energy. You need to stay connected to this organization. You need to listen to everything that I put out. You need to participate as you can on any level. If you're not connected to the ascension energies, you don't have that guidance, that spur, that extra kick in the butt, you're not going to make it. It's as simple as that. So I hope this has been very exciting and informative to people, and something you should listen to often to kind of put you on the track. Do you understand all this, and do you get it? Now, understanding things in a booky knowledge, to passy-testy, is what we've been trained to do things. You go to school, you regurgitate information so you get a grade on the test, so you can pass it and go on and do all more worthless stuff. But that is booky knowledge. That's passing tests. The bottom line is a master is someone who understands what they're doing and applies it to their life. So you've got to get it. Do you get it? Do you get why these things? Do you understand fully what I just spoke to you about the death energies and how animals are tortured, and that you take this in? Do you get it?
Oh, that's a nice thought. I love the Easter Bunny too, Thor.
Well, the point is that that's not the point. Are you getting how this is not in balance with higher energy and higher vibrational people, that you're living on everything that is dead and full of toxins? Do you get it at a deep level? If you do, then when you eat that veggie burger or that other piece of fruit or whatever it may be, you're happy to do it. You don't need no stinking Hershey bar. You don't need no McDonald's burger. You are living in an energy, peace, and empowerment that is irreplaceable by toxic garbage that controls your mind. And when you do that, you start understanding the path better. All of a sudden, when the toxins have left you and the poisons and the hate, all of a sudden you get ascension. All of a sudden your body starts to light up. All of a sudden you understand what's being told you at a very high level. That's right. That's what happens. You're not going to do that filled with death energies, filled with sugar, filled with preservatives and poisons. It's not going to work. There is a spiritual impact of all these chemicals and other problems. And it clouds the way you think. It stops higher functioning. It certainly stops your light body from activating. So you activate your life body at level 1. That's the solar plexus. That's the using the different tools to empower yourself, opening your chakras. That is the earth-based light body, which you start to activate through those etheric energies. And there are many of them. And that includes the way you operate sexually, the way you eat, etc. Now, what triggers ascension? Well, ascension is that other energy, which is completely different, and a completely different subject, and a completely different way of empowering people. And this is something I will be getting into greater as I'm getting older myself, and I need to get heavy into my ascension practices in the next few years. But there are specific ascension, and we do have cells for that. Right now, connecting to the organization and to my figurehead energy is very critical for your ascension. This is connected to all that. I'm connected to all that. You need to be connected to this organization and the energy coming there. If you're not, you ain't gonna make it. These are the shortcuts. So, and there are other ascension energies in general, and we're going to be making these available in particular MechTech cells coming as well. This is very important in what everybody, now, the older you get, this becomes more critical. So you have to be critically based in the fact that you're at a certain age, and there is a lot more behind you and not much in front of you. So what are you going to do about that? What do you want to do? Because in the end, it doesn't matter how well you've done, how successful you are, how much money you have. In the end, none of that you can take with you. Now, what you want to do is, after you spend a life of learning, is to go on to the next level and get out of here. Easier said than done. I hope everybody's learned that, and